Hi, I'm Victoria.
And I'm Ryan.
Welcome back to Youth Talks.
So today what we're going to get into is religion, culture, ethnicity, all within the LGBTQ community. So first, would you guys mind introducing yourselves?
Okay, hi, I'm Sofia. My pronouns are she, her.
I'm Muhamadou. I go by anything. I do not care.
Okay. So the first question that we really want to get into today is, would you guys mind sharing your ethnic backgrounds, culture, and religion if you're comfortable?
Sure. So I'm Ashkenazi Jewish and African American, and I practice Judaism, conservative Judaism, but I was raised in an interfaith family, so Catholic and conservative Jewish.
I am Gambian. I'm not first generation. I was born there, so I was born and raised there for a few years. I'm Sunni Muslim. My entire family, the majority of my family is Muslim, and I'm mostly non-practicing, and that's kind of like the general, like, feeling for some, like, the younger people in my family, but we're a Muslim family.
I'll go. I'm also Ashkenazi Jewish. I'm Reformed, so I'm less religious, and it's more a part of my culture and like my family traditions and stuff. I mean, I was bat mitzvahed, but and I celebrate the high holidays, but I don't really go to temples, so more of the cultural side of it.
Okay, and I'm African American, and I'm Christian. I believe in God, things like that. Don't go to church every Sunday like I should, but you know, I take my time and I pray here and there.
Yeah, so we kind of want to get into how your religion or your culture, like how that has been affected by your sexuality and just being a part of the LGBT community. Do either of you want to start?
I guess I could start. It's not exactly encouraged to be queer in both in Gambia and in like a lot of Muslim spaces. So it has made like being a queer person like very hard, and also considering how I'm basically the only person in like my immediate family, even though my immediate family is very large, I'm the only queer person. So it has made things a bit hard, especially with like being able to talk to some of my family, because some of my family do know and they accept me and they have no issue with it. But it is hard because they don't have that understanding, especially considering how I am literally the only person, well, as of now. So it does make like some things like difficult for them to understand. It also isn't easy because sadly there's still like some anti-queer laws in Gambia that are still in place today. So it has just, it's not very easy for me or for like the queer community in Gambia or just like generally in like large places in Africa to be able to be themselves. But I mean, I am here in the US, so I do have that leeway, but it's still hard because then I have to worry about my family and like also my religion, because then I also have to worry about people in the Ummah having things to say about it, which isn't great. It is very tiring, but it's just my reality. So.
I would say from the Jewish perspective, even though I like consider myself conservative, which by the way is not related to like conservative politics, it's about the sort of extent to which you practice the laws. There's so much variation within Judaism. You know, I've had experience with Reform communities, Orthodox communities. I haven't really like ever met a Reconstructionist person, so I can't really give like any information on what their perspective is. But I would say that I've found in conservative and Reform Judaism that it's been very welcoming. It was never a topic of discussion in my childhood, and my grandparents and parents were always very welcoming. And then in Orthodox Judaism, I think that there's like diverging perspectives. I'm not really very out like when I'm involved with the Orthodox community, just because you know, I feel like there will be a little bit of disconnect, but I don't feel like my personal way of practicing my religion is impacted by my sexuality or like romantic identity. And then from like the half of my family that's Catholic, once again, like I haven't really had any flack from that or like experience like being pushed away in the religious community. But I do know that like things in Catholicism have changed a lot over the years. So like there's there's different perspectives because like the Catholic Church has sort of congresses in the Vatican where priests, like high priests, will meet. So I'd say that I think the topic has evolved a lot, but there's still a lot of people in both religions that hold varying perspectives.
I mean, I'll go first. I mean, between us, but I mean, I definitely am not as religious, but I think that, like, I kind of, in like going to temple, like I went to like my temple for like preschool and like nursery school. So I mean, I definitely felt like very comfortable there. Like, I think it was always never really presented as anything like you can't do this. I think it was more like it was just kind of like something that like it was like a personal like, oh, I can't be this way. But I mean, I think like mostly like in my family and in my culture, like again, we're not as religious. So, and even if there was something in Reform Judaism that was like heavily against it, like against like being gay or being anything like that, and isn't really, like it wouldn't really have much effect on me or affect how I like seek like finding my faith and going to temple and going to all that stuff. But I mean, at my temple we have like a gay rabbi. Like my great aunt, like, or my aunt is a lesbian, and she has like a longtime girlfriend. Like it's always been there in front of me, and I kind of just like, I think I didn't realize it until like I grew up. But I think it's like, it hasn't really made me disconnect, but in any way, like more in the way of like looking at Judaism and how it's kind of like, at least Reform Judaism is very much open to interpretation, and like how you want to interpret the Jewish laws and interpret these stories and these like ideas. I think it kind of makes me a little bit hopeful, because it's like I can not almost take what I want from the religion, but there's so many ways, and people are finding different ways to see themselves in these religions, and it's pretty like nice to see that. Yeah.
I think growing up in a community like Silver Spring, you see people from everywhere, whether they're coming into the country for the first time, whether they go to temple or they go to mosque or anything like that. And I think I've always had, when I was younger, I used to go to church with my family every Sunday. It was always like a Sunday dinner. It was always something like festive that I looked forward to. And I think growing up, I kind of like disconnected with my religion a lot. And more recently, I've been trying to get back to it once I'm slowly kind of growing up and figuring out myself. But I think once I kind of came out to like some of like my friends and like family here and there, I did feel a disconnect with my religion. Like I felt like God isn't going to accept me for who I am. Because then you grow up and you hear people say, oh, well, in the Bible, you can't do this, this, and this. And then it's like when you look back and you actually take time to learn your religion for yourself and learn yourself, you realize that that's not the truth. So I'm slowly getting back on that path of kind of connecting with it again.
That's really nice. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. So one thing that I want to talk about mostly is kind of bringing all your stuff with religion, culture, ethnicity, sexuality, all into high school. I know on the last episode we kind of talked more about sexuality, but did your religion or cultural background affect your high school experience in any way?
Not really, because Northwood has like a lot of Muslims, and basically it's a very diverse school. So like a lot of people really don't care, because it's like, you're Muslim, okay, and we have other things to worry about. Like I have a test like today that I have not studied for and I need to go worry about. So like most people really don't care. Yeah. And you know, I knew a lot of the Muslims in my like the school. I mean, my sister also goes there, who is also like kind of like me, Muslim, I'm practicing and everything. But I mean, there is sometimes, it was mostly like jokey jokes, because they also really didn't care. But like sometimes I'd get like questions about like how I could be queer and Muslim, like reconciling that. I mean, I would just be like, because personally it's like, because I'm Muslim and I believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is all merciful, all loving, how can somebody create humans and all that and not know that that's going to happen? And also be all loving and just hate one specific, like a group of people for something that they didn't choose.
Exactly.
That doesn't make sense to me. And it's also like another thing of like gendering God, like doesn't make sense, because it's like, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala like transcends everything, transcends space, transcends time, transcends all of that, why is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala a man? That doesn't make sense to me, because it's like, why though? That's just me though. But I mean, being queer and Muslim in high school didn't really matter. I mean, the most that it would do is people being like, oh really, that's cool. But I mean, my name is Muhamadou. So like, it's kind of clear. unless people don't really pay attention.
Right.
It's kind of clear that I'm Muslim. But whenever they do, it's usually like, oh, it's a bit of a surprise. But aside from that, they don't really care. I mean, there's also not much they could do about it. Like, what are you going to do about it?
Exactly.
But yeah, that's basically been it for me.
Honestly, I have something to add to that, like about like religion and just culture in general. I think people so often think that like everyone of a certain religion or everyone of a certain ethnicity or cultural background has to be the same and like has to like take that culture or religion in the same way that someone else in that culture and religion does. Like even like in like if I like my temple, like I go to a Reformed temple, like I have completely different ideals than some other people that go to my temple. Like it's so like I think people like to group everyone together because it's easier to view things as that way. Like, oh, I know a Jewish person, so you're probably exactly the same as them and has the same morals and everything. But I think it's so hard, like especially like being queer and growing up and like growing around people who don't really know about that or don't know about certain parts of like your culture or anything. Like I think it's hard to kind of like for them to realize like, oh, not everyone is the same exact thing as like what everyone in their culture is. And I think that it is so true because like you could still believe in your religion and just not like there's everything's up for interpretation. Like all these like historic like these the Bible, like the Quran, like the Torah, they were so written so long ago. And doesn't mean that they're not true, but I'm saying that so much of the like commentaries that we have that we almost take as this is a part of the Bible or this is a part of this, so we have to listen to this law, could be just someone's many years ago their interpretation that they put into these things. Like I think that there's so many ways to interpret these religious texts, to interpret traditional like values and like traditions and stuff. And I think that it's really like an injustice to people of any culture to say that you have to be the exact same as everyone else. And I just think it's interesting when you combine being queer and your like ethnic background and your religion, because I think it's just people are so like multifaceted, and I think it's so interesting to look at how people could seem the same. Like we are both queer, we're both Ashkenazi, but we're so different and have so many different experiences with that, and I think that's really interesting to look at.
Yeah, I can speak a little bit about that. So I'd say like I feel like I found a really an important Jewish community at Northwood. There's been times when we've had ups and downs because once again there's so much variation within the community. I'd say like I've had some struggles at Northwood with being openly Jewish, not necessarily directed exactly at me, but there is anti-Semitism at Northwood, just as I think that there is also Islamophobia. People may not be very upfront about it, but there have also been instances at Northwood where people have been very upfront about it, especially in the past few years. But then there's the element of the fact that I'm probably the only, I guess, visibly or openly, like, Jewish person of color at Northwood. I mean, I'm sure there's other people because, I mean, we live in Montgomery County, and actually there's a lot of people who are, they might be Ethiopian Jewish. Yeah, they might be Sephardic. In fact, we have, like, Sephardic people at Northwood, but they may not necessarily, like, openly identify themselves that way. There's a lot of, like, African-American Jews like me and different stuff. But I feel like I made a step to join the Jewish community because when my, like, dad died, I felt like I really lost my connection to my religion because he was the one who was taking me to shul. He actually, he used to, like, film services for our shul, like, during COVID, you know? So it was, like, we would be there every weekend. Like, he was really involved. So I felt like I had to sort of, like, take a proactive role. And I'm really glad that I did. I've gotten a lot of opportunities through finding a Jewish community at Northwood. And I feel like you just have to make what you can out of a situation. And if there's not a community, you can try and build one because I'm sure there's people who would be interested in it.
That's very true.
To kind of add on to what you're saying, I mean, I have friends who are Christian, and I don't think I'm very, like, open with my religion, but I don't really hide it either. I usually have my cross. I don't have my cross on today, but I have found, like, my friends here and there who I can kind of come to and talk to with things like that, but a lot of my friends that are like queer, they're either not religious or they're like Muslim, so it is very different when it comes to like religious practices or how it might be affecting them because they're dealing with a lot more in the world. I definitely think Christianity is more accepted, especially in America. So when you have to be queer and also deal with being Muslim, it's two different things that you're dealing with. Two different types of hate that you're kind of dealing with. So I can't understand them with that, but it's nice to have somebody that I can sort of connect to in that way.
To slightly add on to that,
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people usually don't really think about Black people being other religions except for Christianity, which kind of does make sense. But, and when some people, especially like online, find out like, oh wait, Black Muslim people exist, Black Christian people, Jewish people exist, Black Buddhists exist, they're like,
Yes.
what?
They're so shocked. It's like
They get shocked because it's like,
thing.
at this point, with over, I think like 7-8 billion people in the world, you don't think at least one Black person would have been Muslim, like not even one Black person would have been like, that Quran,
Right.
what's that about? What's that about?
Right.
Let me figure that out.
Yes.
So it's kind of surprising, especially like people being that surprised, especially considering how Gambia is just one of many like majority Muslim countries. Like there's Senegal, which is also a majority Muslim country. There's like so many.
Yeah.
And then there's like Ethiopia, which is a majority like Jewish and like Christian country. Like there's Jewish people that are like it gets slightly annoying to get that surprise. Because it's like, yeah, I am Black and I'm Muslim. That's normal where I'm from. Like all my family is Black and Muslim. So what? But you know, but I mean, we're getting to a point where it's getting to be less and less of a surprise, and people are starting to get more used to it and understand that, yeah, that's just the reality. People from different races can be different religions and are very often, more often than you think. You will find them very easily.
I mean, like kind of one thing to also kind of like bring this together. I think it's hard to think that like some people think because you're queer and because you're something that may not be accepted in like your religion, that means that you can't be a part of your religion and can't partake in those practices, which I think is something that like, again, I think someone should be able to practice their religion or find their faith in whatever way they can. And I think it's like, it's kind of hard to see, like, I think that there's been a lot of things like in like recently being like, oh, like if you're supporting certain things, like this group doesn't even like you because you're gay. Like that's a big thing that's been happening. And I feel like that's like, you know what I mean? Like, but like I could be that's like saying like, oh, all Jewish people, they hate all gay people. Like you can't be Jewish. And I'm like, well, I am and I can be. And also, again, these groups are not one thing. There's so many different things at once.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of the thing of people making like a group of people monoliths, which it doesn't matter what it is. There will nothing can ever be a monolith for any group of people or anything because people are always going to be different, no matter what. I mean, I know many people that could be seen as a monolith. Like Africans are usually typecast as one very specific thing. Like we don't have shoes, we don't have lots of water, and that's not true because we don't have houses in that. I had a house. Many of the people I know had a house. We all had indoor plumbing. We all had a nice. Like my entire family has like houses and everything. And even then, even if we don't, that's fine because that's just the traditional way of like how houses work. And let's be very honest. If you took I don't know, like a Grecian house from like back in the old days and put it in Africa, that's not gonna work because climate and like culture and things are not gonna work the same. So that house is not gonna work well because you're gonna have to worry about like heating and cooling and all that. Which, like a lot of the traditional houses, already do that fine. Yeah. The mud can cool things down, and it's also really portable and eco-friendly. Because honestly, the only thing that you really need to move is like usually the roof of those like traditional houses. So if you need to move for whatever reason, just take the roof and go. I'm being dead serious. That's literally it. I mean, again, my family, we haven't had any of that because we're like mostly squarely middle class. Yeah. So that's true for us, but like. It is this thing of people have to just stop treating every group of people like they're monoliths because I am not a representation of every African, and I'm also not a representation of every queer person. I'm also not every representation of every Muslim person. I'm also not the representation of a black Muslim person or immigrant or this and that. I'm just the amalgamation of that just ended up becoming the way I am. I'm just the way I am because I am, and that's all that it has to be.
Yeah, I think that's a really good place to like bring this all together. Thank you so much for watching, and
thank you guys for joining.
Yeah, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Yes.
Of course.
It was fun. I love
Thank
being
you.
here.